That's what we're fighting for right now. That's the economy we need to build together. And I promise you, we will not get there if we adopt these ideas that somehow spending more money on tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires who don't need them and aren't even asking for them is actually going to improve the economy. We tried that. It did not work. Now, despite the evidence, the entire centerpiece of my opponent's economic plan is a new $5 trillion tax cut on top of the Bush tax cuts. Now, the bulk of this tax cut would go to the very top. A lot of it go to the wealthiest 1% of all households. Folks making more than $3 million a year, the top 1/10 of 1%, would get a tax cut worth almost $250,000. Now think about that. Folks making $3 million a year or more would get $250,000 tax cut. But listen, it gets worse. Under my opponent's plan, who do you think gets the bill for these $250,000 tax cuts? You do. And you do not have to take my word for it. Just today, an independent, nonpartisan organization ran all the numbers on Governor Romney's plan. This wasn't my staff. This wasn't something we did. Independent group ran the numbers. They found that if Governor Romney wants to keep his word and pay for this plan, then he'd have to cut tax breaks that middle-class families depend on to pay for your home, the home mortgage deduction, to pay for your health care, the health care deduction, to send your kids to college. That means the average middle-class family with children, according to this study, would be hit with a tax increase of more than $2,000. And here's the thing. He's not asking you to contribute more to pay down the deficit. He's not asking you to pay more to invest in our children's education or rebuild our roads or put more folks back to work. He's asking you to pay more so that people like him can get a big tax cut. In order to afford just one $250,000 tax cut for somebody like Mr. Romney, 125 families like yours would have to pay another $2,000 in taxes each and every year. Does that sound like a good plan for economic growth? Does that sound like a plan you can afford? How many of you want to pay another $2,000 to give Mr. Romney or me another tax break? Ohio, we do not need more tax cuts for folks who are already doing really well. We need tax cuts for working Americans. We need tax cuts for families who are trying to raise their children and keep them healthy and send them to college and put a roof over their heads. We don't need more tax cuts for companies that are shipping jobs overseas. We need tax cuts for companies that are creating jobs right here in the United States of America. That's the choice in this election. That's why I'm running for a second term as President of the United States.